Welcome to another episode of Fuck Your Job. I'm Ron Worley.
And I'm Josh Fullenweider.
Fuck your job.
Hey, Jobless Legion. This week we are talking to Shannon Hawley with Hope for Tomorrow. When we did this interview, we were absolutely blown away by Shannon's story. It's really a story of hardship and triumph, and it's absolutely incredible everything that he's gone through in his life. It could easily be a movie script. But we were so blown away by it that we actually forgot our questions. So this first week is just his story, and then we've got a follow-up interview with him where we actually get into the details of how he started Hope for Tomorrow, a nonprofit organization that brings together community resources to help prevent suicide, and just by spreading awareness. So this week, his story. Next week, we're going to be talking about the details, and there's a lot of lessons to be learned in how he actually started the business. Hope you enjoy it. Thanks.
All right. This is Shannon Hawley of Hope for Tomorrow, take two.
Take two.
I used to be in a lot of trouble all the time. I felt really hopeless in life and with no purpose. I run in the streets and gangs and selling dope and drugs. I think it was 13, 14 years old. I joined the gang. I got bullied a lot, picked on a lot because my name is Shannon, and at the time I was a little darker complected. As a kid, I've gotten a little bit lighter over the years, but I got picked on a lot because my name was Shannon and because we were really poor. And it was really easy for me to get involved in where there was belonging, and getting involved in a brotherhood of gang, in that gang. And that sense of belonging and knowing that you weren't picking on me no more, And then I just started growing in that. And as I started growing in that, I really liked who I was becoming. I took all these years of getting picked on in school and everything. And now I'm getting respect from the streets. And every time I ended up in jail, or every time I squeezed the trigger on somebody or into a crowd full of people and people were running and screaming, it was a sense of power that I never had before. And then the praise that I got from it, from my friends and the people on the street, was a sense of belonging that I didn't have. And so I craved that. And the more I craved it, the more I wanted it. And so the more I done it. And that's obviously, I was in trouble an awful lot. I trained myself, over the years to be a monster. I remember eating acid even, and being at home just a kid. I was still living with my mom, and eating acid and watching this VCR tape. It was a documentary on LA gang violence, and they showed the actual bodies and stuff that they were taking from the thing. And I would eat acid and just stare at these bodies, how they got shot, and people's heads being blown off, and just what they looked like. And just in my mind, I thought, the more I looked, the more violence I put in there, the more I wouldn't care, and more desensitized I'd be. And it worked, before I, let's say the year 30 years old, I'd already tried to murder my ex. Let's just say before I even got my life turned around, I tried to take the life of my ex, my oldest kid's mom, my sister, family members, two of my uncles, and people out on the streets. And when I say that I wanted to do that, I didn't think about doing it. I made those attempts as a young knucklehead, and for whatever reason, God would intervene. I know it was God intervening, because you can't fire that many bullets at people and miss everybody. You can't be swinging knives at people and miss them by just threads.
Yeah.
And that's not even to count all the bullets that rival gang members sent my way, being in a car full of people and then just having it shook from a shotgun blast to the side door. And if that blast would have went any more towards the front seat or to the back, somebody would have got shot in the face, lots of stuff. My oldest kids, they were involved in I had my house raided at a young age. I think I was maybe 20 years old, and had the SWAT team raid my house looking for a firearm after what I had almost tried to do on my oldest kid's mom. I had the U.S. Marshals and the task force get me and pull me over and just come out in swarms at the truck stop with my kids in the car and them screaming and crying. My older kids, two of my daughters just bawling because they're so scared. There's dogs barking, guns everywhere, and them just pulling their dad out the car and screaming and just a total chaos. And at the time, my older kids was maybe 7 and 3, and for them to have to go through that and just being away from them, being locked up, and getting back in my mindset away from the drugs and everything, the regret that would be there. I remember a time I told my kids after the U.S. Marshal and the task force, they got me, and I told my kids, my daughter wrote me a letter. I got it hanging up right there in my office, actually. And she was 7 years old, and you can imagine her little handwriting, but you could see in the paper that she was crying. It was all wrinkled up from every teardrop that hit that paper. And she was telling me, she's like, how she always goes past that truck stop and she starts crying and it starts raining. And she just remembers how the police tried to kill her daddy. And of course, it was my own choices. I put myself in those situations. I don't blame the police at all. But from her little perspective, she didn't understand that at the time. And I remember promising her and telling her, saying, baby, when I get out, I'm not gonna be a part of that life no more. I'm gonna get out and I'm gonna change. And when I got out, I had that strong desire. I wanted to change, and I got back to Colorado from Texas. And and when I got back here, I hugged her and I hugged my kids and my family, and I knew I didn't want to be involved with drugs and gangs and stuff. And so I wanted a legitimate job, and I looked everywhere for a job. I remember there was no great organizations like how we have Jobs of Hope and things like that today.
Right.
We didn't have that at that time. And so I remember looking for a job and feeling helpless because nobody even gave me a chance because I was a convicted felon, and not just, violent crimes. I was a gang member and this and that. And so a piece of paper was telling people, don't hire this guy, and I remember I think it was the heat got turned off or something because we couldn't have hot showers. We still could take cold showers and everything, but we were on the verge of losing everything. And I separated myself. Me and my ex were fighting. Me and the older kids' mom were fighting, and I took off to my mom's house and stayed with her for the night. And it was late, and she went and passed out, and I was sitting at the table, and I think it was a 380. It was a 380 or a 9mm. Those are always choice because they were cheap. And I remember just sitting there and I was in tears, defeated because I didn't want to break that promise to my daughter, but I knew that I wasn't going to get a job anywhere. And I was ready, hopeless again, ready to give up. And, I just really wanted change, man, but there was nothing out there to give it to me that I could find. Maybe I wasn't searching hard enough, but I remember I grabbed that pistol and my mom and everybody was asleep in the back room, and I just pulled that slide back and I stuck that to my head and I started rubbing my temple with it. And I was in tears, and those tears were hitting the paper like how my daughter's was hitting the paper and the one she wrote me. And I was trying to think of the words. That explained to my mom, why I just left her this mess at the kitchen table to clean up. And but I couldn't do it. And I put the gun down and I went back to doing what I knew. I started selling drugs again. I started getting back into that mentality. Like I said, I spent years training myself. And so with all those years of training myself, it wasn't hard. I never completely left that. And then I almost took my sister's life. I missed her. I don't even know how I missed her. The bullet, grace of God, again, went through her head, literally. I mean, without even hurting her, she turned around and the bullet was right in the wall, right behind her head. And I was going to squeeze the trigger again. And a friend of mine just grabbed my hand. He's like, please don't, let's go. And we got out of there and just started turning back into this monster that I didn't want to be. And then you fast forward, I know we got unlimited time. So you fast forward and the relationship between myself and my ex didn't work out, obviously. I couldn't leave that lifestyle. And she was really patient, 13 years patient of trying to get me away from that. And I lost the family right there. She went her way, I went my way. The kids were with her. I started drinking heavily. And I remember praying to God, and believe it or not, I was just like, God, I'm about ready to die here. I'm partying too much, and I just lost everything. Uh, didn't want to live. Uh, Please, God, send an angel in my life, and it's crazy because I remember that, and he did. I mean, he heard me, and he did literally. My wife's name is Angel. Uh, yeah, man, he literally heard me.
Yeah.
I met my current wife, and I was getting high still, and she was getting high, and we did it one time together, and it was awkward for both of us. We're like, whoa, we can't be around each other like this. We like each other too much, and that was enough for me to want to stop. It was crazy,
Yeah.
all the prayers and all them wanting to stop all those times. And I've been drug free for 11 years now.
Attaboy.
And so we started getting into the church. We ended up starting our own family, and I'm still trying to build my family with my older kids. It's very difficult because their mom is very upset, rightfully so. But
Yeah.
so she's like, you ain't gonna see the kids and yada yada yada. And so trying to maneuver around all that to see them at the time. And we started getting into church, and I think we got 5 years strong, man. 5 strong. Of just a great relationship, my current wife and I, and then all of a sudden things started changing around, and I started noticing some things that were different about her. We've been together for some time. We already got 3 kids,
Yeah.
and things are different. Something's going on, and I recognized it from the lifestyle I was living. She was getting high again,
Oh.
and so I had told her, I said, hey, look, there's no room for that in my life. I can't have that in my life. It took me forever to escape that. You got to choose. It's going to be our family, or it's going to be the drugs. And she chose the drugs. She was in, and so I left to my aunt's, and I was broken. She was lost, and our kids were in the middle of it, and went back to drinking heavily again. I wasn't I wasn't being patient. I was constantly praying to God and just saying, please don't let me go through this again. I understand now from both sides. But I wasn't being patient, and if God would have answered my prayers like that, then we wouldn't be together right now. He knows, damage would have happened. It wasn't the right timing. I had to be patient for timing, but I didn't understand that at the time. And you fast forward, a bunch of stuff happened, and I was under the influence right one night, and we were back and forth and trying to work this relationship out, and you know police ended up at the house. I went and I kicked down the door of our home because there were people in the house getting high, and I was throwing them out my house. And as I was throwing people out, one thing led to another with the arguments. I was drunk, obviously. Take full accountability for everything I'd done that night. But we ended up arguing as I'm tossing people out, and the cops get called, and as they're on the phone with somebody's on the phone with the police. My wife was really high, and she said, I hope they kill you. And that hit me so hard inside. Like, I could not believe that she just said what she said. This whole time I've been trying to fight for my family back, and I can't even tell you the pain, after being all the stuff I've been through, to hear that just was like, oh my gosh. And so I said, well, then tell them I got a gun. And they heard that on the 911 call. They said,
Okay.
tell them I got a gun. And then my name with the violent history and everything was a perfect opportunity to get rid of a hoodlum. And when the police came, I was again under the influence, and I don't blame the officers. I put myself in the situation, but they kept telling me to come outside, and there's officers outside. They're armed, and I come outside, and I had some shorts on, no shirt, and I had my hands behind my back in a threatening manner, not in a manner of surrender. And they were telling me to put down a weapon, and again, I led them to believe I had a gun, and they're telling me to put down a weapon. They're giving me every opportunity in the world, every opportunity. God bless them. They were giving me every opportunity. And even after being a problem that I was, even after the problem that I had been in the community, uh, they gave me all these opportunities, and I, in my head, on one shoulder was like the cartoons, one of them saying, Shannon, don't do this. Don't do this, man. Freaking think of your family. Think of where you've gone through, what you've been through, where you are. Don't do this. And on the other side was the enemy, and he was saying, my wife's voice, I hope they kill you. I hope they kill you. And I leaped out at him. And when I jumped out at him, I pulled my hands out from behind my back real quickly, started cursing at him, leaped out at him, F you, and boom, the fire, a round comes out, hits me in the chest, blows me up out of my shoe. I know I lost my shoe, and I looked down. Mind you, I didn't have a shirt on. And so all I hear is a bang and a flash, see a flash, because it was dark out. And then I look down, and I'm bleeding all over the place. I'm like, ugh! And I can't breathe. And I'm thinking, oh shit, this is not what I want, And all honestly, I always say this every time, but I was thinking in my head, like, just time out.
I'm out. I didn't mean that.
I was just fucking around, but it's too late, man. And I knew one thing is I didn't want to get hit again, so I took off running, and I didn't get very far. And obviously, I don't remember a lot of everything because I'd been drinking so heavily, but I do remember cursing at them, angry that I remember telling them, you had one job and you screwed it up. I was mad that I was still alive, mixed emotions because of that alcohol, and still telling them, hey, they got drugs in the house and my kids are in there. Then I blacked out, and I woke up in the emergency, up in the hospital, and then I blacked out again. I woke up in Unit 3, over in Weld County Jail, and I was looking at some years, man. And for kicking in my door, I was looking at burglary, and it was aggravated because I was on paper and everything else. And the police, I got to say, they hit me with the less lethal round. I didn't know it at the time until through trial, but my little girl had come running out of the house, and I didn't know that until that my wife was telling me this, and I heard it in the 911 call during trial. I heard them telling me and giving me every opportunity, and I heard me denying all the opportunity and aggressively, obviously, trying to get them to shoot me, and I heard my little girl screaming that, and it just ripped me up. And fast forward through all that, I'm looking at 32 years in prison. They tell me they'll give me 10-year deal, and that's the best that they'll do. If I go to trial, then and I lose in trial, then I'm gonna do all the 32. It's aggravated, by the way, again, and I thought I was doing justice. I had an attempt at kidnapping. I figured, or a kidnapping charge. I was justified in my mind that I was trying to stop my wife from drinking and driving, and she still took off drinking and driving. So I was like, I'm not pleading to that. And going into the house in my mind, I was justified in my mind. For one, I live there. I may not be staying there, but there's people in my house getting high with my kids in the back room. So I wasn't gonna take their deal. I took it to trial. And during that time, my wife, the guilt got to her. The drug use, the guilt. She lost the kids, and she tried to kill herself. She ate a bunch of pills, and by the time her grandmother got over to the house, she was already losing consciousness. And her grandmother called 911, got the ambulance there, pumped her stomach, got her, took her to the hospital. My oldest daughter, her and her mom were having issues, and me and her have always been close. And me looking at all these years in prison, she was really hurt, and she made an attempt on her life, and her body rejected it, threw up all the pills, and she was able to get help. I beat everything in trial but the smaller stuff. Fast forward, I know we only have a little bit of time, but God restored my family. My wife's drug free. She's been drug free now for 5-6 years. Our family's been restored, stronger than ever. I started this nonprofit because I lost a friend in 2017 who stuck a gun in his face, and or however he did. I don't know. I just know that he had a gun and he took his life, and he wasn't fortunate. And since then, I've lost several friends to suicide, So I knew I needed to do something. You know, I seen that those 3 students took their lives in 1 week, and God had just gave me a plan, gave me a heart to do something, and it started with an event, and he keeps opening up doors, and here we are. You know, we fast forward through all that drama and everything, and I just bought my first home. We're in our very first home, first-time home buyers. Something we never thought we'd done. We got a beautiful family, reconnected with all the kids. You know, we got a nonprofit. I work going around speaking to people in different organizations. I work with the Jobs of Hope organization and helping them. Great doors opened up with Press Montoya. I like to think that I have a great relationship with the Greeley Police Department and other people in our community.
Yep.
During this crisis, I even started up a page on Facebook. It's called the Greeley, Colorado Community Help and Resource Page, which has helped many people in the community getting through this crisis, just building them up and helping people, helping one another, and are connecting with one another to get each other and come together as a community to get each other through this situation that we're facing. And if I would have died that night, I wouldn't have any of it. I wouldn't have my son. I wouldn't have a kid. My wife probably would have died. You know, the guilt getting to her, the whole everything. Just if I could say one thing to anybody, man, is hold on, man. My life is an example. I went from the straight gutters thinking there was nothing, and I'm on the other side of that line, and I couldn't do it without Jesus Christ. God is my Savior. He's got me through this. He's given me chance after chance. I don't know why. I don't have the answers to that, but I know that every day I wake up, I take a positive advantage of all of that.
Join us on Facebook at The Jobless Legion, or subscribe to our YouTube channel and like, comment, and share
so that we can get the message out to aspiring entrepreneurs just like you.
Thank you.
Fuck your job.